Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Pelicans Daily. I'm your host, David Grubb, editor in chief of thebirdrights.com. And it is game day for the New Orleans Pelicans. Only 7 of these left in the regular season. The Pelicans are on the road on Wednesday night and will visit the Los Angeles Clippers. Um, Obviously, this is a very shorthanded New Orleans Pelicans team. No Zion Williamson, no CJ McCollum. Both of those guys were shut down for the season on Monday. Um, the Pelicans have gone 1-1 against the Clippers this season. Both of those games were at the Smoothie King Center. This will be the third game between these two teams. The first of 2 games in Los Angeles for the Pelicans. Pelicans will play the Lakers on Friday night. Um, and you know the deal for the Pelicans. We're trying to get to the end of the season now, figuring out which of these rookies primarily. I mean, like the veterans, I think the Pelicans, they have Kelly Olynyk under contract. He's coming back. They have indicated that they'd like to return Bruce Brown, but I don't think it's at the price that Bruce Brown was paid this season, more than $21 million. If Bruce Brown is going to be back, it'd have to be under $10 million, I would have to imagine, if for the Pelicans to be interested in that. Otherwise, you're investing your time, because we'll see if Jordan Hawkins is available as well. But you're investing your time in your rookies. And over the last 3 games, the Pelicans went 2-1 last week. In those 3 games, the Pelicans were led by those rookies. They looked good. They all 4 of the rookies, whether you're talking about Carlo Makovich, whether you're talking about Antonio Reeves, whether you're talking about Keon Brooks Jr. or Yves Missi, all of them averaged double figures. All of them shot above 50% from the field. Um, Eves averaged a double double over those 3 games. So these last 7 games are about those 4 players. If Jordan Hawkins is back and however he plays over the final 7 games, I guess you can take that on. But I have said for the record that I don't think Jordan Hawkins has earned a place in the rotation going forward, and I don't know what he could show you over these last 7 games that would change your mind about that. What you want to see out of your rookies is, are they giving you consistent production night to night, consistent effort night to night? Um, and do they fit into next year? Are they potentially to get some of this financial flexibility that they're going to need to make any major moves? If you can rely on more of these young players to fill back into the roster spots rather than having to go get veterans who have not proven to be as productive as you'd like, then I think if you're the Pelicans, you got to do that. Um, when it comes to beating the Clippers, it comes down to 2 things. Number one, you've got to be able to stop James Harden. That's always the case. He's the primary ball handler for that team. He's the initiator of the offense. And then if Kawhi Leonard is healthy, then on those nights you got to deal with Kawhi, who's an efficient shot maker still. You saw that when the Pelicans were in the last time that these teams played on March 11th. The Pelicans won that game by 7, but Kawhi Leonard was very effective in that ball game. Played very well. So you have that, and then you're talking about inside. The Clippers have Ivica Zubac, who is so good and so effective, and has just developed into a force on the interior. The Clippers also um, are not a high volume 3-point shooting team. Norman Powell is their best 3-point shooter, still shooting an insane percentage for the Clippers this year. Um, he will likely play. He played very well the first game that the Pelicans played against the Clippers. He did not play in the second game when the Pelicans beat the Clippers. So the Clippers are clearly going to be the favorites in this basketball game. You expect them to win this game against the Pelicans. But just looking at what the matchups are, you know where the problems are going to be. The Pelicans have to. The Clippers are a team that are going to run a lot, but the Pelicans cannot turn the basketball over if they want to stay in this basketball game and compete for 4 quarters, make it worth the trip. I think that's all you're looking for. If you can make this worth the trip, then you have to be happy if you're the New Orleans Pelicans. Um, Again, the Clippers 43-32. The Pelicans sitting at 21-54 on the season, splitting the first 2 games of the season series. Another day, and more comments about Zion Williamson. This time it's Stephen A. Smith, who called Zion Williamson a bust. And Stephen A. Smith says that Zion is a bust because he can't stay on the court. And I understand the sentiment, but I don't think the word bust is applicable in that case. Because I think if you couldn't stay on the court, and like one of them was a season injury, if it's that bad and the things were, and Zion has a part to play in this. But I think a bust is, when I think of a bust, I think of a player who either has a problem with addiction, and I guess there are people who could argue that Zion has had a form of addiction early in his career, okay, or they weren't good. I don't think it's fair to put bust on players who are injured because nobody wants to be injured. That's the one thing you don't want to be. As a player, you can you can not care if you're good, but who wants to be in pain? And who just wants to sit on the sideline and watch and have people have a negative opinion of you. I don't think that. I think just your basic. You say, well, the money makes. No, nobody wants to hear that every day. Nobody wants to hear that you are not worth it. I don't care how much money you have. No one wants to hear that. You can see there are people far more powerful than Zion Williamson who have their egos bruised when people who make far less than Zion Williamson talk about them. So to think that, a player like Zion is impervious to criticism simply because he makes a lot of money is not very fair. So I think Stephen Smith, who deals in hyperbole, this is what we get when you're talking about Stephen A. Smith, is you're dealing with somebody who's going to overblow everything, who needs the clicks, who needs the headlines, who needs social media to react to whatever he says. So he can call Zion Williamson a bust, but we know for a fact that the majority of commentators don't watch the games on a night to night basis. And he can look at the stats and say Zion Williamson is a star because of his production. But if you've watched Zion Williamson, you know why the Pelicans are still able to take a risk on his talent because he is that talented. He is not just a good basketball player, he is a unique and dominant basketball player. For all the criticism, for all the things that you can talk and nitpick about his game, the main thing is there are few players who are as effective at what he does as he is. There are few players who are as effective in general as he is. So to say that that young man is a bust, no, you could say that his career has not lived up to expectations, that he's dramatically underperformed. But a bust, I think, is somebody who's just not talented, who the estimation is that this person is really good. Like when you look at a Michael Olowokandi, who went number one to the Los Angeles Clippers, when you see that kind of player, when you see a Kwame Brown, who I don't care what his athletic profile was, he didn't have the basketball profile to have a number one pick. He didn't show that ability, that understanding of what it took to be a winner. Those are players that I think when both the player and the public dramatically overestimate the talent of the player. I think Darko Milicic is far more apt to call him a bust. At the top of the NBA draft, picked behind LeBron James. Um, I think that's far more of a bust than Zion Williamson. I think Zion Williamson is a disappointment, and that hurts too. A disappointment is hurtful too when you talk about someone's career, but a bust is a very specific label, I think, and I think that Stephen A. needs to let that go. And I think that the only time that the national media decides they want to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, is when Zion is doing something that they want to judge or discuss in a negative manner. And you could say, when do the Pelicans give them reasons to talk about it? Well, then just don't talk about the Pelicans. You know what I mean? Like, just don't talk about the Pelicans because you're not giving anything insightful here. You're not giving any analysis of the situation. You're just throwing out an opinion that, okay, Zion Williamson is a bust. Great. How does that enhance the conversation? How does that make it any more palatable for Pelicans fans to deal with what's going on in New Orleans? How does it make it any easier for Zion Williamson to come back from his injuries? How does it make the rest of the league any better? How does it make the conversation around the NBA any better? If you want to talk about the Pelicans, you can talk about the losses as a team. You could talk about the franchise not drafting well to support Zion Williamson's career. You could talk about the the ultimate mistakes that the league has made with this franchise and how it got helped set it up to get here. You can talk about ownership. There's so many other angles than to deal with is Zion a bust. And you can say, well, they are in the business of blah 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 blah. But this is part of the reason that the conversation of basketball is so bad. It's because we can only discuss it in these success or failure terms and broad ways. Everything is either a 10 or a 1. It is the absolute best, it is the absolute worst. And if that's the only way we can have these conversations, then we can't be nuanced at all, and we can't put these things in perspective. We can't understand how we got here, because busts are not independent of themselves. Like I said, it's organizational and individual failure that create a bust, because the scouts all thought that that player was going to be ABC. So how were they wrong? All these great minds, why were they wrong? The player thought they were in line to be A, B, C, D. What? How did they fail? It's a behind the music episode. It's a ESPN 30 for 30. It is what it is. You find out the reasons why. All of these things have reasons why. That doesn't mean that they are good reasons why. That doesn't mean that you're happy with the reasons, but there are reasons. And if we don't have that discussion, then we're just yelling into the cosmos. And I think we could do better than that. But we know Stephen A. Man, I'm not saying this to be mean, but I'll just say this. We know Stephen A. This is what he does. So I guess you just have to expect it on that level. Again, that's why I would tell most Pelicans fans that if you're looking for coverage, get it from local media. They're the ones who are servicing you the best. All right. But when we look at Zion Williamson's season, if you want to be critical of it, he had a hamstring injury, um, in the opposite leg of the one that put him down at the end of the previous season, against the Lakers in the play-in tournament. But pretty much from the time he came back from that hamstring injury in January, from the moment he sat on the court, from January until March when he left again, late March, those 20 plus games, that was, I think, the best Zion Williamson we've ever seen. As he gets toward year 7 of his career, that's amazing to think about, that we've seen him for so few games, but we're so deep into his career. um you want to see him maintain that and then build upon it. The numbers that he put up, and Willie Green talked about this at practice today for the Pelicans. They want to see Zion maintain first the physical shape, and he did this season. That has to be noted. We cannot talk about this season and ignore the fact that Zion Williamson played in the best shape of his career. Even after the hamstring injury, he came back in the best shape of his career. The video that came out of the tattoo, that was at a different time. We found out. We thought that he had kind of blown his um, his shape during that time away. But no, he came back and he was in shape. I saw him regularly. He never regained the weight that he started the season with. He was always in shape from media day through his last day of the season. So and now we're going to see if he commits to this. Does he stick with it? He did it for one off season. Now he's got to do it for a second off season. Um, he will not be going into this offseason with the same type of injury. He's got the back injury, of course, but hopefully his rehab and the stuff that he says he's going to continue. The Pelicans still have him in a rehab protocol through the end of the regular season. We'll see what he does during the offseason. That'll be on him. But the Pelicans want him to be committed to his fitness. That is the key component in all of this. You didn't trade away Brandon Ingram. You didn't give the proverbial keys to DeJounte Murray. You didn't do these things so that you could then throw Zion away too. So you end up with the Zion Williamson who gave you the best numbers of his career per 36 minutes, pretty much across the board. 31 points, 9.1 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 1.1 blocks, and 1.6 steals. Um, and had 14 games with at least 27 points in the 30 games he played this year. Just the numbers, the on-off numbers, the impact on a nightly basis to the Pelicans, his ability to win minutes against teams that were better than the Pelicans, to win the minutes while he's on the floor, make him one of the 10 to 15 best players in the league. He is an all NBA talent when he's healthy. Everyone knows that. Everyone believes that. At this stage, it's about Zion maintaining his health. I think he has learned the things offensively and defensively that you wanted him to learn over this period of time. He's still behind the curve as far as on court experience. He hasn't played the kind of minutes that somebody his age should have. And I think that it will hamper him for the short term. But as he continues, he learns so quickly. And that is so big. Um, and I think, Willie Green talked about his level of intelligence, his high basketball IQ, his ability to handle the basketball. And people talk about him tightening up his handle. And I think some of that comes from overconfidence, not because of his inability to handle the basketball. Because he's got a better handle than people on the perimeter will give him credit for. His ability to use both hands, his ability to use in and out dribble, his ability to change speeds, his ability to elevate quickly and get out of his dribble into a shot, whether that's a layup attempt, whether that's the pull up jumper that he started to show more and more during the season. If Zion is healthy, the Pelicans can get better very quickly. And that's the thing that you can only say about Zion Williamson, even if the Pelicans were to get Cooper Flag. And let's say you took Zion Williamson out of the pick, you just added Cooper Flag to the group that the Pelicans have coming in. Would they be better? No. Does that mean you don't take Cooper Flag if he's available at number one? Yes, you absolutely take him. But what I'm saying to you is, if you want the Pelicans, if you're a fan and you want this team to compete next year, the fastest way to do that is to have a healthy Zion Williamson. Yes, the loudest question is always going to be is what does that look like? And again, all I can say is if you can get 65 games, if Zion can qualify for awards for the next 2 years, then you have a good chance of finding out what this team can be. A really good chance of finding out what this team can be. That's all anybody has ever wanted is a real shot at knowing what the peak potential of the New Orleans Pelicans is. And finally, before we go, um, the Pelicans also at practice, a lot of what they talked about were the performance of the rookies that we talked about earlier. They have done a very good job over the last week or so, having to take on a bigger load of minutes. They're averaging about 20. All of them are averaging between 24 to 26 minutes a game, pretty much over the past 3 games. They will probably average more than that over the final 7 games. One of the big topics of conversation in practice was the performance of Antonio Reeves, who is shooting 61% from 3-point range since the All-Star break. Um, he is a guy that has progressed ever since his freshman year in college to becoming an elite shooter, not just a good shooter, an elite shooter. Led the country in 3-point percentage his senior year at Kentucky. Comes into the NBA. You know about Kentucky guards anyway. Their reputation is being able to perform at a high level. He can shoot the basketball. His shot looks good. He's efficient from at all 3 levels. Efficient around the rim as a scorer. It looks like he's efficient in knowing where to take a mid-range shot from. He doesn't take bad mid-range shots. And then as a 3-point shooter, again, 61% since the All-Star break. It's not a huge sample size, but a good sample size. And when he's been given the opportunity, he has performed. Willie Green also high on Antonio Reeves, saying, commenting about that he has an NBA level skill set at shooting. That is the first step for any player is to have one identifiable skill set that can keep you in the league. He does need to get bigger and stronger and become a better defender and a better ball handler. But his first job is going to be can he knock down shots in the NBA on a consistent basis? And if he can do that, he will always have a job somewhere. Somebody will give you a chance if you can shoot 38, 40, 42% from 3-point range consistently. Um, the other guy, Keon Brooks, the guy who spent 1 year at Kentucky before leaving there. Um, he's been very good, a physical defender, been able to score in double digits for 3 straight games, and defensively, being able to guard point guards, twos and threes. And I think sometimes Pelicans overstate their defensive versatility. But when I say can guard multiple positions, that's not all for starters in his case. I think on a second unit, to have a guy who can guard 3 positions defensively as a starter, you want to focus on one, can occasionally switch and do the job in a short pinch, but not somebody who's going to guard starting NBA players on a nightly basis at this stage. Could he develop into that? That's what we're trying to find out. But he's shown that he's willing to be aggressive with his shot. He's efficient with his ball handling, will attack the basket, doesn't over dribble when he goes to the bucket, can finish through contact. All of those things are good. That's all you want. I can't be mad if the young guys are putting good film on tape. That's what you want. You want to be able to evaluate them at if they're playing consistently well, and these guys have been playing consistently well. The team has not played consistently well, and some of their flaws are the reason because of that. But if they're able to produce in some area very well, and offensively right now, again, all 4 rookies have been performing well on the offensive end. That's something to build off of. They're showing instincts on that level that I think for each of them, you look at something and you say, okay, that's buildable. For Carlo, you see his potential as um, a stretch 4 offensively. You see his high motor. You see that he cares about the game. So those are all things that you think you can build off of. He has a lot of work to do to become a rotational NBA player. But I can't be mad that he has shown the ability to impact the game in some positive ways. That's good. The same I would say for Keon, the same I would say Antonio, the same I would say for Yves Misi. You know, there are enough good things to make you encouraged by this rookie class. Maybe the best overall rookie class then since the Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado um, rookie class. This one is 4. That one was 3. All 3 of those have proven to be able to um, impact the game. We'll see if this group is the same, but because this is just year 1, those guys are in um, year 4. So when you look at that level of impact, that remains to be seen. But it also says that there's been a big chasm for the Pelicans in what they've been able to get out of their rookie classes as far as production. The Zion Williamson class was 3 members. That ended up being Zion being the only remaining member of that group. Jackson Hayes and Nickeil Alexander Walker, those guys did not make it. I mean, that was a 4-person class, excuse me, too. So, I mean, but the main guys in the first round, you had 3 first rounders. The other 2 didn't make it, have not proven to be worthy of the first round picks that they were taken with at other stops in the NBA. Then you look at what else you've taken. Um, over the years, whether it was Kyra Lewis Jr., who proved to be a mistake as a draft pick, you didn't get the value. Though Dyson Daniels, I don't think was the wrong pick as far as like a player that is a good NBA player. I think he was the wrong pick for the New Orleans Pelicans. Like I understand the vision for Dyson Daniels with the Pelicans. I get it. He was supposed to be the next Lonzo Ball, but better. You just didn't have that kind of time for him to develop into that. You didn't have a coach who could define a role for him for him to be able to develop quicker. And so that ends up being a wasted pick in retrospect, considering that, you know, DeJounte at this stage, DeJounte has not given you the value that the Hawks have gotten for Dyson. So we'll see what happens in the future with this rookie class. But so far, so good. I don't think you can be disappointed in these guys at all as far as first year players. So uh, Again, the Pelicans will be playing the Clippers on Wednesday night. We'll see what happens there as we approach the end of the season. But until then, I hope you're enjoying the show. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share it with other Pelicans fans. And you can follow me on social media at DM Grubb. And don't forget to check out thebirdrights.com each and every day for Pelicans content there as well. Until the next time, y'all have a great evening. Enjoy the game and be safe.